What's up, everybody? Welcome to a Tuesday edition. Tuesday edition of Cinema Royale.
Tuesday
But
that we're recording it, but nobody's listening.
yeah, you know what? We started this up again live, and I've never broken myself from the live feeling. So you're listening to this whenever the hell you want to. But welcome to another episode of Cinema Royale. We've got some big stuff to cover today. I mean, one of the biggest things I think we'll get into is with Godzilla. I know you made it out to see it in the theater. I know a lot of people made it out to see it in the theater. So looks like this is a turning of the corner for people to start getting more comfortable. I am interested to hear what you have to say about the theater going experience post COVID.
I mean, I saw it first on at home on the screen, and I watched it on my tablet.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I watched it, because for some reason it wouldn't cast to my TV. It's normally not a problem. Normally I have with Warner Brothers stupid app, but for some reason it wouldn't work. So I had to watch it on my tablet, and it was fine. I liked it. I quite enjoyed Godzilla vs. Kong. If we're going to talk about the film and all, I quite enjoyed it. But then last night I did go to AMC to check it out in the theater, and it's absolutely amazing. Like it's so much better to watch in the theater. It had a Dolby sound, the Dolby Cinema. It was beautiful, man. It looked great, sounded great. I love being back in the theater. It was kind of empty-ish. If I'm honest, maybe about 10, 12 people in there at the most. But I mean, the movie's done well box office wise already.
Yeah,
it's had the best numbers of anything during the pandemic. So that's over a year. And internationally, it's probably broken $300 million as of today, I would think. I think it's broken 300 million. So I know that may seem, average by normal standards, but we're not under normal standards. We're on the pandemic curve. And
I mean, 300 million in a pandemic world is like $1 billion in regular world, I got to imagine.
You also have to remember that the film was also out on HBO Max.
Right.
So it's not just in theaters. People made a conscious effort to go out and see it in theaters. I know a lot of my friends were eager to go and see it and go pay to see it. I did it up too, man. I bought the expensive seats. I got the Wonder Woman tin, the popcorn. I got everything. I spent some money on this movie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if there is a movie that's worth the theater going to experience, I gotta imagine that Godzilla vs. Kong fits that checkbox. There aren't. In my opinion, I've always been a guy, for as much of a movie buff as I am, the picture and the sound don't have to be optimal, but there are some movies that are worth seeing in a theater. I mean, any Marvel movie usually, any obviously anything with a kaiju, more or less 2-3 Titans, has got to be a movie going thing. So it's good news. And then we got Black Widow coming up. We've got Ghostbusters Afterlife. Well, that's not until the fall. We've got a lot of backed up films that are waiting to come out, and now they're going to feel a little bit more froggish about jumping in that pond after seeing what Godzilla can do in this dual release format.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's I'm sure theater owners are happy to see this. It shows at least to some degree. People are going to be willing to come back in the theaters when this whole thing dies down.
Right.
People are vaccinated. I get my second dose on Saturday. Yay.
Nice.
I know. Pretty excited. I'm pretty excited for all the side effects that'll come with it.
I hear the second one is the killer, though. Not the killer. I shouldn't say that.
That's the one that's supposed to kick your ass. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So just make sure you have a nice couple hours to lay out afterwards. But
yeah. So Godzilla versus Kong. Let's talk about it. Godzilla versus Kong. This is the fourth film in the MonsterVerse. Hard to believe it's been 4 movies already.
Yeah, because King of the Monsters.
Gareth Evans did Godzilla. You had Jordan Vogt Roberts on Kong Skull Island, still my favorite of the 4.
Love that movie.
I can't remember the guy who did Godzilla King of the Monsters, the weakest of the 4, I think. I can't. Is it Roscom who did that?
I honestly have no clue. I can't remember for the life of me. I wanted to say it was not Roscom. It's a guy, he just got announced for doing something else that was big. But if I stall long enough, I can get to it.
Michael Dougherty.
Nope, that's not who I thought. Okay, so I was way off anyway.
Well, you probably thought Adam Wingard,
That's who I thought. Yep.
who did this one, and we got news on him later. So yeah, Adam Wingard did this one. The funny thing is, all four of those directors are indie filmmakers who made their big jump into this MonsterVerse. So it's a really interesting strategy by Warner Brothers and Legendary on that. But,
well, it started with Gareth Edwards, right?
Yeah, Gareth.
Yeah. So with his take on Godzilla, and he was an inspired choice just because of what he did with monsters. So we knew what his pedigree was in showing this kind of stuff on screen, but the rest of these guys didn't really have that background. I mean, if anybody hasn't seen Monsters, it's an amazing low budget film that
shows. It looks amazing for I can't remember how much he spent on that, 15 million or something.
Yeah, it wasn't more than 20 million. I know it was a very small amount. It's almost like if you remember District 9 when that came out, everybody was amazed that they were able to do what they did with the $30 million that cost. Monsters is right in there with it. But yeah, so we're at the fourth film now. I think, I got to imagine that we'll probably be on the same page with the human element of the story, which is always everybody's biggest complaint when it comes to these films. But it made me think.
This suck.
Yeah, but what's an exception? So, all right. Well, I guess there's two ways. Number one, do you think there has to be a human element?
No.
Okay, so you're on that page. But if there does, what's the acceptable story?
I think the next movie should be human free. I think the next movie you make totally from Kong's perspective. You don't need humans, especially if he's where he's at the end of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward into the future, you don't need the humans around. I might be keen on having the deaf girl from this movie show up because she doesn't have really bad dialogue written for her like everybody else does in this movie.
Yeah. And that's on account of her being
but
deaf.
She's an adult. She's an adult. But she's an adult in the next one. That's what I would say. She's an adult. She still has her bond with Kong, and you don't need any more humans. You don't need any more. All you do is get in the way. So in this one, you've got, you got to come up with a reason to have Kong and Godzilla fight one another. So I like the fact that they come up with this, they're ancient rivals thing that they just kind of pull out of their ass.
WrestleMania 3 all over again.
Pull out of their ass, basically. And basically what you have is this corporation Apex that is doing some shady shit, and Godzilla keeps attacking their facilities. Monarch, which is the company, like the monster tracking company that has been part of the franchise from the beginning, they've been watching over Kong. They decide they want to try and get him to Hollow Earth, where there's this energy source. It's the whole thing's ridiculous. The whole thing's ridiculous.
You got me snorting on that one. That's funny.
The plot is ridiculous, and I guess in some ways, for a movie like this, the plot should be ridiculous. I mean, I'm not hating on the movie for having a ridiculous plot for the humans to run around in and look stupid.
Right.
I expected that was what it was going to have, and it did. But still, like, some of the dialogue written for these characters is really bad, and you can see Rebecca Hall and especially Alexander Skarsgård just kind of muddling their way through it.
Yeah.
But all of this is contrived to get us to Godzilla and Kong battling one another, and thankfully they battle at least fairly early on in the movie. They have a pretty good fight. The one that they showed a lot of footage from in the
aircraft carrier fight that you've seen in the trailer.
And stuff like that. Then they fight again later. There's an even bigger fight that comes after that against, I'm sure everybody already knows it by now. Of course, Mechagodzilla appears in the movie. I'm not spoiling anything. They've already basically told us that anyway. But look, in terms of like the way Kong and Godzilla look, I think they look tremendous. I think Kong is basically, I'm trying to think of the way to put it. This is a King Kong movie with Godzilla as the co-star, and Kong is kind of like, not like the Bruce Willis action hero, but he is kind of like the Bruce Willis action hero. I mean, he is I mean, I'm
including I'm just laughing because of the one thing that I caught the first time. I was like, I hope other people did, and then everybody caught it, the Die Hard moment in the aircraft carrier. Yeah, where he jumped. It's the exact same scene
from the atomic flame. Yeah, that was a total Die Hard scene.
Yeah.
I think they were doing that on purpose. They framed him as this action hero, this familiar action hero, and the circumstances he was in, he was getting his ass kicked a lot, and he had to like rebound from it the way American action heroes do. It felt like an action movie rather, instead of having Bruce Willis or Sylvester Stallone or whoever, you had a giant ape.
Which is a cool angle.
I really like that. I really like that. And Godzilla's almost framed as the villain of the movie for a good stretch of it. I mean, he has his reasons for doing what he's doing. Of course, there's always someone worse, but that's kind of the way they did it, and I think that was unexpected considering that Godzilla has been so much the emphasis on this franchise. Expected to be mostly from Godzilla's perspective, but it's not. It's King Kong's, and I think that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, and this might be my own bias. One of the funniest things I've found out when this movie, on the ramp up to this movie, is that people have a vested take in what I'm doing. It's the same as back in the Twilight days. If you ask Team Kong versus Team Godzilla, even a casual movie fan will stop and think before they give their answer, which blows my mind. And I've always been a Kong guy. I think, I've often said that the whole needing somebody to relate to is ridiculous, that you don't need that in an action movie. That's why a monster movie that's all monsters would work. But Kong is probably the proof to the other side of that rule, where, the young deaf girl that you mentioned, that's his human avatar, his best friend on the human realm.
Kind of like how Millie Bobby Brown was to Godzilla in King of the Monsters.
Yeah, but that never made sense to me. Maybe it's just because we're so much like gorillas that I can see it more, but like there's some really sweet moments. Godzilla is a very empathetic and sympathetic character, and portrayed that way throughout. He's a guy who's doing what he has to do, much like you said about the male action hero or the American action hero thing, where he's forced into these situations. He just wants to, go home and drink his coconut milk and not have to deal with this. But he's forced into these situations. He's loving, he's caring, and you see that through the human characters. But Godzilla, I never really, maybe it's because it's a lizard, I never really bought the whole Millie Bobby Brown human angle of it.
Yeah, that one's a little bit stranger because it doesn't have, like, the girl in this case, she's a survivor of Skull Island, which has apparently been wiped out after all these years later.
Yeah.
She's like the lone survivor, and that's how she forms her bond with not only Rebecca Hall's character, but with King Kong, who became her protector. Pretty good protector to have, I guess.
Yeah. I've always liked Rebecca Hall.
Yeah, the Millie Bobby Brown character in Godzilla King of the Monsters, it was, I don't know, it was more telepathic or something. It was kind of...
Yeah, there was some supernatural aspect to it.
And what did you think about the development of her character in this movie? Because she's back in this, and she's basically in a subplot involving Brian Tyree Henry, who plays a conspiracy theorist about Titans, and Gillian Dennison, who most people know from Hunt for the Wilder People and Deadpool 2.
Yeah.
As her best friend, and they're basically infiltrating Apex to figure out what they're doing. But her character, Millie Bobby Brown, she's also become something of a conspiracy-loving.
Yeah. And you can always buy into why that would be, given what's happened to her before. I mean, I kind of get that. I did think that Brian Tyree Henry's role establishes the African-American guy that's a conspiracy theorist as a subgenre trope. We've seen Anthony Anderson do that. We've seen, like, every Transformers movie, all of these different movies, it seems to be like a new trope they're developing. But I actually didn't mind. I actually felt like that side mission, the subplot that's usually totally superfluous, I almost thought it was worth it this time around, because their whole thing is the discovery of Mechagodzilla and going down there. So I at least appreciated that they had a good reason for it. I was mostly disturbed for the first 20 minutes that little baby Millie Bobby Brown is growing up. She got makeup on in this and all kinds of stuff. I
was waiting on this. waiting.
No. This is from a completely fatherly place.
I was waiting for you to make the comment about you finding Millie Bobby Brown attractive.
I'm coming at this from the stance of a father of a little girl who's seen this cute little girl, this cute, sharp, smart little girl, and now she's growing into a woman, and I'm looking at it from the fatherly point of view, and it disturbed me on that.
Okay.
Not in a sexual way at all, just in a fatherly way. But I thought Isaac Gonzalez. Now, if you want to talk about that, we can talk about Isaac Gonzalez.
I mean, she's Millie Bobby Brown,
Amazing, yeah.
just a shade under the legal age for you to be lusting after her. So I'll let you go on this one. But yes, Isaac Gonzalez is amazing. She's
Yes.
in this too. She has one of the worst roles in the movie, actually.
Probably the worst, I'd say. Yeah. The only
Her
person
role is pretty terrible in this movie.
Skarsgård could be too, just because he has a much bigger role, but it's also pretty useless. Like, you feel like they could have tied in Rebecca Hall's character with a couple of lines of dialogue and just cut him out totally.
I don't think he needed to be there.
No, not even a bit.
He did not need to be there.
But how about the fist pumping? These movies are all about the fist pumping moments, right? Like, obviously when we talked about him, the Die Hard moment, and then seeing Kong sit down on his throne, that moment was just badass. Sit down and just, got his little axe and everything too.
Yeah, this movie, the axe thing is really ridiculous. It's like, why do they have ancient weapons? I don't understand. It's just really weird.
Yeah.
Weird. Mystical weapons and stuff that show up in this movie too. It's just like, whatever.
We actually get to see the Hollow Earth, which is just, it looks like an Escher painting almost, with the ground as the ceiling and the ceiling as the ground, and we see all that. But honestly, for what it's supposed to be, Godzilla vs Kong, I think it's as best as we can expect at this moment for a Titan movie.
I had a lot of fun with it, and under the right circumstances, I would pay to go see it again. Honestly, it's in another theater with an awesome system, I would definitely pay to see it again. It's an enjoyable film. We haven't had very many of these to go to, so I loved my time seeing it last night, and I'll go see it again. So yeah. It's good. I'm curious what they're going to do if there's going to be another one. There's nothing about there being another one, so they might not do another one.
I have to imagine they will, only because this is kind of a unique circumstance in that the last movie in a 4-movie franchise is the highest rated and highest, maybe not highest grossing, but considering how much money it's made in a pandemic world, and considering that it's sitting at like 75% on Rotten Tomatoes, the other films did not make it that high. And this has been universally accepted as the best of the series. I gotta imagine they go somewhere else with it.
Yeah, I'll still take Kong Skull Island over this one, but
honestly, that movie is utterly rewatchable. I can watch it over and over and over again.
That one is just stupid fun.
Yeah.
Effects aren't nearly as big as they are in this one for obvious reasons, but I think that one is just like they're really just whatever shooting the shit in that one, man. They're just like, fuck it.
Oh yeah, they got their Creedence Clearwater Revival Vietnam helicopter shots going. Yeah. Samuel L. Jackson doing his Samuel L. Jackson is
really interesting though. The directors on this though, we talked about it before, but it is really interesting though because Jordan Vogt Roberts did Kong Skull Island, and he did Kings of Summer. That was his movie. Gareth Edwards had Monsters, and I still remember that Comic-Con when he was talking about doing Godzilla. He was on the set of he was talking about they were showing footage from Godzilla, and he was in the background on the set of Rogue One. You could see like people walking around in the background doing Rogue One. And he was on the set. That's sort of right. And then you had King of the Monsters. I can't remember what Dougherty did before this. I don't know why I keep forgetting Dougherty. He's a good director, and I keep forgetting everything that he did. It's bugging me. It's bugging me now. So, what did he do? What was Michael Dougherty's big film? Oh yeah, Krampus. Duh. Why did I forget Krampus?
Well, I think you're the only one that's forgotten about Krampus.
And then Adam Wingard who did like You're Next and The Guest, and just a tremendous number of indie films.
Yeah.
And they all bring a certain sensibility to these movies that I think is interesting. His and Jordan Vogt Roberts, I think, are the most closely aligned. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't mind seeing them take over the franchise, honestly. I think they have the sensibilities to do it. and they both proven to be very good when it comes to handling the big effects stuff too. So
Yeah.
I'd be happy with that if they wanted to do that. I think Wingard would probably come back and do another one if they asked him to.
And he was a big part of the VHS anthologies from back about 10 years ago, probably now,
Yeah.
which are some of the best horror anthologies of the last 25 years. So it's interesting to see how, I don't want to say lucky because I know they did their homework, but they've got these unproven on a large scale directors that have by and large done a pretty damn good job with these characters and with these movies. So
Yep. Did you when they were doing the Mecha Godzilla stuff, and and there's this scene where there's a person who is kind of connected to Mecha Godzilla. Were you
yeah.
getting Pacific Rim vibes?
Oh, I got that from the second that they showed the full Mechagodzilla. The first time when they were in the training room and they showed how it hooked up, it's obviously much different, but at the same time, I was like, okay, you got some kind of telepathic link going on. It's the same
Yeah,
thing.
like the neural bridge thing that they did in Pacific Rim. And
Yeah,
I remember the rumors that they were trying to do like a Godzilla King Kong Pacific Rim crossover.
yeah.
Which I mean, to me seems like the most logical thing in the goddamn world. But
Except for it would have
it
to
also
pit
seems like the most
humans against
expensive.
Godzilla and Kong.
It also seems like the most expensive thing in the
Oh,
goddamn.
ridiculously expensive. Yeah, that's an animated movie.
Right. So it's like
That's either the best feature film ever or an animated movie. So
I think if you still had Del Toro on it, you do that movie in 5 seconds. You'd be like, okay, yeah, we do that. But
yeah,
after
no
the
doubt.
after the Pacific Rim 2, which didn't do nearly as well, they
Hmm.
probably wouldn't. They probably won't come back to it. So who knows?
Right. But there is a new Pacific Rim animated show on Netflix for anybody that's having a Pacific Rim
It's too much
withdrawal,
content, man. They got all these animated spin-offs and stuff that they're doing, and I
and it's
can't.
not stopping. More and more are coming. And anime's becoming really huge on the Netflix side of things. They got Kevin Smith Motu, a Masters of the Universe series coming that they're really must be gearing up for. They must be thinking it's pretty good because I've noticed at Target and Walmart and stuff like that, you'll see Masters of the Universe toys that you haven't seen in a long time. So they're gearing up big for that.
Yeah.
So Prince Adam rides Battle Cat, but Idris Elba rides a horse in the middle of Philadelphia in Concrete Cowboy. Boom! Best
Did
segue
I talk
ever.
about this last week?
Yeah, we did. We did. I couldn't when you wanted to cover it this week. I couldn't remember if we just didn't cover it fully.
I don't remember if we did either. Maybe we did talk about it
We
already.
did. Yeah. Now I think about it.
I still
So
remember explaining to you that the stables were a real thing and that they do exist and that they're.
well, no, that you. So I knew that, but I didn't know that it was recent. I figured it was back in like the '60s and the '70s or something.
So did you finally watch it?
Yeah. I watched it. It was I
Well,
love Idris Elba, man.
you
I
probably heard
know.
my opinion. So what did you think?
Oh, I mean, Caleb McLaughlin really surprised me in that he hasn't had a ton to do in Stranger Things, but he definitely hasn't had a ton of real dramatic acting to do.
He hasn't had a ton to do in Stranger Things. He got himself a little white girlfriend. He's doing all right.
Yeah, but they put he's a sidekick at best. He's got his little quips here and
That is
there, but
all he needed to do.
well, no, I understand that. I'm just saying I haven't been able to judge his acting ability because they haven't given anything meaty. And in this, he and Idris Elba, nailed the father son thing. But more importantly, I was just happy to see my man Meth still kicking butt in the dramatic territory. I Method Man for an Oscar. I don't care what movie, just put him in everything. I love the guy.
Yeah, he's
But
good. I like him too. But yeah, but what did you think? See, I think I said last week that my major issue with the film was that I didn't care about the father son stuff. I just cared about the stables, and I wanted to see like the cowboy culture. I wasn't really feeling Caleb McLaughlin and him being a troublemaker and getting in, that stuff didn't really do much for me. I just wanted to learn about the modern day black cowboy because it's such a unique subculture.
yeah, I mean, I didn't feel like they just glossed over the fact that there's a bunch of cowboys in the middle of the city, but there definitely could have been more on that. I would have liked to see more about their fight to keep their way of life, basically, and
Yeah, yeah,
getting it taken away. But I didn't come up against the father son stuff. There were a few moments in there where I got a little misty, and it wasn't the best one I've ever seen, no, but it really did. It was a bit affecting to me. I'd be lying if I said it didn't. Lorraine Toussaint was great. Jarell Jerome, I thought, was I wasn't really aware of him until this. He kind of jumped out at me.
Yes,
There was a
you
couple of.
were. Yes, you were. You saw him in Moonlight.
Who was he in Moonlight? Oh, you're right. Well, Moonlight was like
Surely you saw
10 years ago now.
Surely you saw him in Ava DuVernay's series too about the Central Park Five.
I
mean,
never saw that.
The guy won an Emmy.
Yeah, no, I never saw the Central Park Five series. It's actually on my list. That and the Chicago Seven or whatever it is. Both those for some reason. I don't know why I lumped those together, but
Chicago Seven.
I didn't see it.
And you voted. And you voted in awards.
I didn't vote for that.
Well, I guess not. If you didn't see it.
Yeah.
That's the problem. You didn't see it.
You know, I don't know what you want from me. I couldn't find the screener for it, and then by the time I did, it was on Amazon or whatever, and it was just too late. So.
But you'll lust after Billy Millie Bobby Brown.
That is not. I want that stricken from the record. That is not what I was saying. It was a purely paternal instinct I was talking about.
Do your critic duty and go watch that Trial of Chicago 7.
You know what? I'm sure I'm not the. I'm sure I'm the least problematic critic when it comes to that. I'm sure 90% of them are not watching half the movies.
The voting period is months. You couldn't watch it at all.
You know, man. I have edit ability on this video. I'm gonna make this real dumb right here.
It's okay. I could just put it in the description. So.
Yeah, I know. So speaking of awards, let's talk about next year's Oscar contender, The Unholy.
Yeah, I was going to say The Unholy. Please tell me you watched. Did you watch this?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Of course. I mean, yeah. Whenever you have anything dealing with like a Catholic or a Christian bend to it coming up like that, I'm compelled to watch it because it scares the shit out of me.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan in it.
Oh yeah, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who's Sam and Dean's dad from Supernatural, John Winchester. Katie Aselton from The League, who I always fancied a bit, and of course Cary Elwes, everybody's favorite fella, who seems to be like a horror, a new horror icon because he's just ever since Saw, he's been popping up in horror movies left and right. Well, yeah, it might just be that he can't get anything else.
You know what? He's not getting like A-list roles anymore, so he's kind of like that big fish in a small pond in a lot of these horror movies.
Yeah,
and that's fine. He's taken to it really well, and he seems to be a good fit when it comes to these things too. There's something kind of off about him to me, so it kind of works. But the best actor in the movie to me was Cricket Brown, though, the girl who played the girl who's actually the one who sees the Virgin Mary in this movie. And you know what? I went into this because I got the screener late, like on a Thursday evening, and I watched it and I had to do the review of it. That was a sucky day, I might add, by the way. I had to watch this. I had to watch The Unholy. I had to review The Unholy. I had to watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and then I had to recap it immediately. So I had like 4 things to do in like 4 hours time. It sucked. Last Friday sucked, but it all got done.
Thankfully, you have some integrity because I know most people would let that affect. Most people, being probably me, let that affect their enjoyment of the films they're watching. But somehow you managed not to do that.
Yeah, I ended up actually kind of liking The Unholy. And look, for the most part, this is by the book possession stuff as far as I'm concerned. But there were aspects of it that I really liked. So you got Jeffrey Dean Morgan's character, who's this kind of disgraced journalist covering like religious bent like miracles and things like that and stuff like that. Just covering that kind of stuff, but he's disgraced now, and he takes on this case he takes on this story of a girl who seems like who was a deaf mute, and then she sees this vision of the Virgin Mary, and suddenly she can speak, and she starts performing miracles and stuff like that. While that angle of it in particular isn't fantastic, what I liked about it was that Morgan's character is kind of lapsed himself, and so while he's kind of befriending this girl who's gone through this miracle, uh, the cynical part of him, he's kind of wrestling with the cynical part of him and the faith that used to be within him. And I found that fairly interesting. It's not they don't explore it as much as they probably could have, but I thought he did a good job in depicting his inner conflict. The same way that I thought Cricket Brown did a great job of depicting what was going on with her. You have a teenage girl who suddenly had the world opened up to her in ways that she had not experienced ever in her life. Like she was born deaf mute. Um, and I thought that she was really great in portraying that aspect of it. Those are the two things that really stuck out to me about why I ended up liking this movie more than anything else. Everything else about it was just kind of okay. It's like it's fine. I've seen this a million times, but I thought those two in particular were really good.
Yeah, yeah, they followed the formula very well, but they did follow the formula to a T for this kind of stuff. Everything you'd expect from a possession movie pretty much is represented. But I, the thing that you liked about it is what almost made it more depressing to me. I thought they did have some really cool, really disturbing visuals. So I'll put that out there. But with these possession movies, maybe it's because I've seen so many of them. They never delve deep into the psychology of it all, or the truth behind um, how these priests prepare and how they're who the ex. I mean, there's this whole thing out there, and there was one movie I can't remember the name of it now. Anthony Hopkins was in it. It was based on a book, and I actually read the
Right,
book. And what's that?
right.
The Right. There you go. And the book was actually really good, and it gave just enough context into how exorcists are chosen and their training and what they see and all this, and it really made a well developed film. And The Unholy, it almost seems like I can forgive most because they just want to scare you, but this felt like there were tinges of wanting to go there, even using something like the Virgin Mary specifically, because that's a real thing that people claim to have seen miracles around. I'm not saying the miracles are real. I'm just saying that's probably one of their top draws in certain parts of South America where they have this stuff happen all the time. Now mostly it ends up being, oh, the statue's crying or bleeding, and really there's a leak in the roof and it's rusty water. But
We get that imagery in this too.
yeah,
Statue in the blood.
and there's a lot more to go into, but they chose to stay on the surface, and I think they did a fine job with it. Like I said, the only thing that really set it apart for me, and this is part Ghost House, they're really good at this, is
Sam
the
Raimi
visuals.
Company folks.
Yeah, and their visuals are just they always figure out a way to have 4 or 5 really striking, disturbing visuals in their films. So
When is Sam Raimi going to get back behind the camera of a horror movie? Was the last one Drag Me to Hell?
yeah, I can't think of
That was
anything else
what,
he's done since then. I
2009?
mean, he and Bruce Campbell are in talks again for something in that Ash verse, but
I don't want to see anything from the Ashverse. That shit has never really done anything for me anyway. But
yeah.
I like Drag Me to Hell. Drag Me to Hell was fucking awesome.
Drag Me to Hell was good. I would much prefer Sam Raimi do movies like that than Evil Dead. I always kind of rubbed up against Evil Dead. I know people love it and call it iconic, but it's just too goofy.
You remember who was in Drag Me to Hell?
Um,
Allison Lohman.
Alison Lohman. Yep. Okay, I couldn't remember her name, but I do remember. I do remember the end of Drag Me to Hell was a
Oh yeah.
mind fuck, like something I hadn't seen in
Oh
a
yeah.
long time. I mean, it took balls to get that ending.
What happened to Allison Lohman?
I don't know. I
Right. Yeah,
I
she was in Big Fish also, so I'm like a an uber fan of Allison Lohman. And I can't think of the last
yeah.
thing I've seen her in, and I'm like, where's she at? She
I
was
feel like her name was big as like the hottest upcoming actresses for like a year or
for
two,
years. She was,
and
and
then
then
she went down the um what's his name? I fuck, I forgot the guy's name. We're trying to do too many things at once.
where,
Um,
where did she go? I'm trying to think what her most recent movie was. She hasn't done a movie since 2016, and that was some shit called Officer Down, which I ain't never heard of.
oh
Okay,
wow, yeah.
so since Drag Me to Hell in 2009, she didn't do another film until 2015, and that was the Vatican tapes. I remember that shitty movie.
Retired from acting in 2009 to focus on becoming a mother to her children. She only occasionally does a film role every few years, usually a cameo appearance.
Mother to her children? All right, she's no longer hot. Okay, so
Jesus. Oh, Officer Down. I knew that sounded familiar. That's the
I
one
didn't
with
realize
Kim Coates.
She's married to Mark Neveldine. Do you know who Mark Neveldine is?
No. Why does that sound familiar to me?
You'll know this name, Neveldine Taylor.
I know that. Why do I know that?
Crank.
Oh.
Neveldine and Taylor did the Crank movies.
Wow. Wow. She Wow. Okay. Well, the good news is that was in 2009, so it's now 2021. So she may start acting again in the next 3 or 4 years when her kids are in high school and don't want to talk to her much anymore.
Yeah, I have no more interest in her. That's fine. All right, moving on.
Do you guys think I'm bad? You think I'm bad with the way he puts me to be some chauvinist pig, but you see the true colors shining through here. So,
that can be amazing, but
before we get to the news, let's talk Falcon and Winter Soldier and the least superhero.
3.
What?
Episode 3. We are halfway through.
That fucking sucks. I don't know why. I know we talked about this before, and you said they're doing it by the hours and the episodes are longer, but screw that. We just there's so much to do. I don't understand how they're going to get it there, but and I have a feeling we're going to be left wanting for a lot of things like the resolution of his family stuff. Sam's family stuff was interesting to me. I don't think we'll really be getting back to that. Bucky's
popped up in this episode in the worst possible way.
Yeah, as like a bit, but we finally get to see full Zemo. And it's Sharon Carter episode, which by the way, Emily Van Camp. Wow, she's top tier if you ask me. But so they go to Madripoor, which is a huge name in the comics. It's a huge name in regard to mutants. Now we didn't get any mutants, but
were you looking around for Patch the way I was? Or looking around for Patch Wolverine?
I was looking around for any clue to anything because I mean, think about.
I was looking around for Patch Wolverine. I was like, is there somebody in the background just wearing an eye patch? I'm going to say it's Wolverine. Or I was like, am I going to see Yukio in here or Yuriko or anybody that's like in that orbit? Like I'm looking around for. What's that person's name? Okay, no, it's not him. Okay, no, but you know.
Well, you know how Kevin Feige likes to trick people. How awesome of a trick would that be to have everybody hyped up to think mutants are going to come in WandaVision, and then drop them in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, introduce them there, just total left hand. But that's not what happened. We did get to see Baron Zemo cutting a rug though. There was a whole bit where they go to Madripoor to find the super soldier serum and the guy that's making the super soldier serum, and to get there they have to bust Baron Zemo out of jail. Bucky goes undercover as the Winter Soldier, and Sam as was it Smiling Tiger or Smiling Dragon?
Smiling Tiger, I believe.
Who's a African warlord or something like that.
Yeah, we should say that Bucky wasn't really undercover. He was kind of just pretending he was still the Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
He's a lot more comfortable being Baron Zemo's attack dog than he is being a regular person.
And you could tell that, yeah.
Yeah, he just kind of slipped right back into it like it was nothing.
Yeah. So they go in and they are undercover for their true intentions at least, and we get some really funny scenes. And if we talk about this being the superhero version of a Lethal Weapon movie, then Baron Zemo was our Joe Pesci this time around.
Yeah, that totally.
Did you like that though, or did you think it was stupid? Like I
mean, it was different. I mean, this was a very different characterization of Baron Zemo than we got in the Winter Soldier.
Right.
That's for sure.
Yeah, but not as emo for sure.
Am I do I dislike it? Not necessarily. I mean, the guy's been in jail for a few years. I guess that would change everybody a little bit. So it didn't really bother me. And the show could frankly use some more punching up of humor, in my opinion. So it didn't really bother me. He still felt like he was Zemo.
Yeah.
Because he still had like, I don't know, he's still vaguely racist. There's a great conversation on the plane where they're talking about Cap's track playlist.
Uh-huh.
And and Sam is like, yeah, I gave him Trouble Man from Marvin Gaye, and Bucky don't really dig that joint.
Mhm.
And Benzema's like, oh man, it's great. It encompasses the entirety of the whole black experience, and it's just like, shut your racist ass up. And Maggie's like, no, he's out of line, but he's also right. This movie, when these guys could just sit around and they talk, I think it's actually at its best.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I was looking forward to the most.
The first episode dragged a little bit because we never got Bucky and Sam together to
Mhm.
do this sort of thing.
Yeah.
So this kind of picked up at episode 2 and 3 when they've been able to do that more.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell in 5 minutes into their interactions in Civil War that these two had something special. There's a chemistry there that you don't get between every two characters in a movie,
To
and
be
it's
fair,
just
I
getting.
think Mackie creates that with everybody.
Oh, 100%. No, he's a special. His
I'm not saying,
charisma is so overflowing.
yeah, I'm not saying Sebastian Stan can't do it, but it's just something about Mackie, man. It doesn't matter who he's paired up with. I always point to that movie, 10 Years. Remember the movie 10 Years?
Yep, love
And
that movie.
Channing Tatum and like all these like
Chris Pratt,
it's,
Oscar Isaac. Yep.
yeah, it's just cool people in a movie together. It's Rosario Dawson. It's like just cool people in a movie. And like Anthony Mackie has that kind of, I don't know, just just banter with everybody. It's just something that he just seems to generate. It's just him.
He's unnaturally comfortable anywhere you put him. He's
I wish I had that kind of self confidence and ability to be comfortable with people. I don't have it.
I mean, you talk about people overuse the term swagger, but that's what he defines. His charisma is just overflowing everywhere. He's hyper comfortable everywhere he is. He's funny. He's a good looking dude. I mean, you really could drop him anywhere. But one thing I'm noticing as we have a clip from the show playing above, is there's a very obvious clip in the trailer for the whole season that shows Sam outside of his family house throwing the shield around. And with 3 episodes left, man, how are we gonna do anything justice? I'm having depression now because it's unless they find the power broker and get rid of John Walker next episode, I don't know how we're gonna get there.
We're working under the assumption that the whole John Walker thing needs to be resolved in these 6 issues.
Well, he needs to get the shield back at least because it's in the trailer, and trailers never lie, Travis.
He doesn't have to get shit back at the end of this thing. He doesn't have to.
But the trailer, we all know they only use footage from the actual show in the trailer.
The trailer.
Whatever, man.
Yeah, I honestly, no, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how this whole thing wraps up. But to me, 3 episodes seems fine.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 3 episodes seems fine. They could do it. But I also see this as the first step in something bigger, not just this. Like Isaiah Bradley's story won't be over when this series is over. Eli Bradley, who we only saw for like 2 seconds, his story's not over when the series is over.
Right.
Sharon Carter's story, which we heard a lot more about, and I'm going to ask you about that in a second. Her story's not over when this is over.
Mm-hmm.
Bucky's story's not over. Falcon's story's not over. Obviously, U.S. Agent's story's not over. None of this stuff is over. All this stuff is going to carry over into movies and perhaps more Disney Plus. So if everything is not resolved at the end of this, I'm okay with it as long as they get the main part of it through.
Yeah, well, as long as they have a complete story and it's not just set up for something we're going to see later completely, then I'm good with that. But I'm glad you mentioned Sharon before we got off the topic. I know we have a couple other things to cover, and we're reaching the hour mark. But
photos of Emily Van Camp going over your head right now. So
I wish I would have thought of it because there's a few. She's just so girl next door adorable, man. I'll tell you. There's a picture of her with a ponytail.
What was that show she starred in? Like on
was it Everwood? EverQuest? Everwood?
Yeah, it was Everwood. Yeah.
But so we get, and it's almost kind of screwed up because it's easy to forget about characters in something like the MCU where you have so many people going back and forth and everything like that, that a lot of people, I'm sure, felt the same way Bucky and Falcon did when Sharon Carter's like, yeah, after I gave you guys the shield back, I had to run for my life, and I've been on the run ever since, and now I was trained to be an FBI agent. Thanks to you guys, I'm a criminal art dealer in Madripoor. So she's been better part of 10 years if you count the blips, and she said she didn't get blipped out. She's been on the run, and now she's living in Madripoor, and they offer her a chance, offer her a pardon that hopefully Sam can deliver. But it was kind of a gut punch to see.
Let me give you a hint. He's not going to be able to deliver that.
Nope.
Because it's not up to. He even says it basically. It ain't really. She even says it basically. It's not really up to him.
Yeah, but I just wanted to be there for the conversation when they were like, well, you know how everybody thinks that Cap is died? Well, he went back and he's been boning your aunt for the last 70 years. So he's your uncle now, the guy you were lusting after.
She's justifiably salty about a lot of shit.
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
Not just the being a fugitive from justice for the last few years, but also because of Cap.
Yeah.
And Bucky and Sam had to be the brunt of this woman scorned for a lot of this episode, which is pretty funny. But her situation also makes no sense because and I don't know if this is something that Marvel's going to actually deal with directly, or if they're just going to be like, or they're just going to let it rock. It's just like, you know what, don't think that much about it. But so she gives in basically in Civil War, she gave Cap his shield back, and she gave Sam Red Wing or whatever his gear,
wings,
so they could fight. If they didn't have that shit, they couldn't have been in that final battle, big battle at the airport. And since then, she's been on the run for helping them. But the Avengers have done, a million times worse in terms of the government. But they got pardoned, but she can't. Now that didn't make any sense.
Doesn't it though? I mean, don't we see that in everyday life where two people do the same thing and one gets punished because they're more of a celebrity than the other, or more of a?
Yeah, and I think in my recap I actually addressed that, and I'm like, the only thing that makes sense to me is that the government didn't pardon her is because she's just a basic human who's not.
That's what I assumed.
Part of the national defense like that. And they don't see her as special the way they would see the Avengers. That's the only thing they could come up with that might make sense. But even then, if they just try to dismiss it with like a line like that, like, oh well, the government, they don't see you as, then they would still need to go a little bit further. I think. I still think they need to go a little bit further than that. But the thing is, it gives us so much. I like the fact that they gave us a lot of backstory about where she's been and what she's been doing. I like that aspect of her because I always liked the Sharon Carter character. I like it. I like it like they can.
Oh yeah.
In all the same ways that you do.
Well, I mean, story-wise, Peggy Carter does not have as rich of a backstory in the printed page as Sharon Carter does. I mean, all the Secret Avengers stuff, the Shield stuff. I mean, there's books upon books upon books of Sharon Carter and Cap, and Sharon Carter and Winter Soldier. There's all kinds, just as many as there are Black Widow almost. But so it always felt kind of weird to me that they fell back to the Peggy Carter of it all.
Well, I mean, the movies are different than the comics. And Sharon Carter in the comics at the time when they created that character, I mean, she was the person who had shot Captain America.
Yeah. Well, they were they were an item before that, but she was.
Sharon's backstory in comics is wildly complicated, so you got to change it, you got to streamline it, you got to do a whole bunch of different things. I like what they've done with her in the movie so far, but I'd like to see more of her.
But and that's all I mean. I want to see more of her. I don't want her to drop out after this.
Right.
I don't need an Agent 13 movie, but I do want to see her more involved.
Unless you're going to do a Marvel espionage series or movie, she doesn't really She doesn't really fit in any of the movies that she could have been in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, War was the last movie that she might have made any sense in being in, and I think that was the last one we saw her in because she wasn't at the funeral. Was she at the funeral? At the end of Endgame?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't remember that if she was or not. But yeah, she wouldn't have fit in any of the movies, like none of them. So,
yeah, but you touch on something big here, and that's what I've always been saying about.
she's a very specific character. Like she's specific to the Captain America side of things.
Yeah, or at
It's
least the
like there are
espionage
characters in
side.
all the other solo franchises that we don't see crossing. Like we don't see, um, there's a lot of characters we don't see like pop up in other places. And
Hmm.
she's going to be one of those. She's going to be one of those.
Yeah. I mean, you touched on something that would have me super excited, and that's when we started talking about Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I mentioned about all the different flavors of Marvel, whether it's Marvel Cosmic, Marvel Magic, Marvel whatever, and the Marvel espionage stuff has always been my favorite in print and on TV, everything. So I would love to see. Essentially, that's what Falcon and the Winter Soldier is Marvel espionage, and I would love to see more of that going forward. And it's a shame that Natasha Romanoff is gone. Although I guess we could see it with Florence Pugh's character, because there were some great stories with Black Widow and the Winter Soldier and Falcon.
Right.
So, on to a different property. What's that?
How much time we got left?
We got about 2 or 3 minutes, but we're not getting off of here until we talk about Sight Beyond Sight, Thunder, 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 Ho! The ThunderCats movie.
ThunderCats movie is finally happening. It's been talked about for years. And the guy who's going to be directing it is Adam Wingard, who we just spent 30 minutes talking about for Godzilla versus Kong.
Right.
So he's moving up, man. He's going to be doing that next ThunderCats movie, which is exciting. I'm excited to see Mumra. And Wingard talked a lot about it. He's apparently a diehard ThunderCat,
Yeah.
like really seriously ThunderCats fan. Talked about all the ways he doesn't want to make the movie. He doesn't want to make them look like like Cats, like the movie Cats. He probably won't do it live action. He's going to do kind of a mix or something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
There was years
excited.
ago. There was and I tried to find it earlier to run above here. There was a fan film made of what a live action ThunderCats would look like, and they had like Vin Diesel as Panthro and stuff like that. But the thing people forget is it does seem really silly, but Masters of the Universe is the same thing, where you have this mix of sword and sorcery and technological innovation that can go together and create something wholly new and cool. Now, ThunderCats does have a big hurdle of those are characters that look super cool in cartoon form, but are really hard to translate. But we said the same thing about Rocket Raccoon and Groot, and half the stuff Marvel's done. So it's possible. And I there's so much love for the ThunderCats that Wingard is a very brave person to take this on, because it's gonna be really hard to please everybody if you even can do that.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm glad he's taking a shot.
Yeah, me too. It's gonna be like I'm excited. Like I said, I want to see Mumra. I want to see Wily Kit and Wily Cat, and my boy Panthro, who is the best ThunderCat of all time.
Yeah. Oh, those nunchuck things he had. Oh man.
Yeah, he's the strongest of them all. He's strong. He's stronger than Lion-O.
Oh yeah. I mean, he was the muscle, right? I mean, and Lion-O's right hand man.
Yeah. So
and then Chitara with her whip with the 3 bolo balls in the end.
Oh. And Tigra.
Yep.
Yeah, and then next
Tigra was always meh.
Tiger's man. Tiger's like the Wheeljack of.
Yeah.
Like Wheeljack's like, yeah, Wheeljack's there. Wheeljack's fine. Wheeljack's
right.
Fine. But nobody's like, yeah, I'm a diehard Wheeljack fan. No, nobody's like a diehard Tiger fan.
No.
And then next they got to do a Silverhawks movie, and then we're good. And we're good.
Silverhawks.
Yeah.
You know what I'd like to see is I don't know if most people don't know this. You probably will. But Bionic 6, do you remember them?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I used to love Bionic 6. I would love to. And for some reason, I can still remember the theme song. Well, I know why, because cartoon theme song writers in the 80s were the best in the history of the world, and they could create literal audible crack for you to remember. But and then there's a Transformers movie coming out. Again.
There's another Transformers movie. So it hasn't been that long since we learned about Stephen Cable Jr.'s Transformers movie, which is supposed to be within the same universe as Michael Bay and Michael Bay's films and the Bumblebee spinoff. So this one we got another one that's coming out, another live action Transformers movie. This one's from Charm City Kings director Angel Manuel Soto, which I think is awesome. Charm City Kings is one of the 5 best movies of last year, in my opinion. And he's doing a Blue Beetle movie too, so that guy is blowing up, man.
Yeah.
So this one is supposedly not going to be part of that universe, but we don't know anything more about it. So I don't know what that's going to be. Is this going to be like Beast Wars or something? I have no idea.
It's got to go down one of those roads, or what were the dinosaur Transformers called?
Dinobots?
Well, they were Dinobots. Okay, yeah. So like a Dinobots taking place mostly in the past. I don't know.
That's Beast Wars, right?
I thought Beast Wars were actual animals, or were the Dinobots part of Beast Wars?
Oh, well, no. I don't know. Well, I'm sure there were Dinobots that were in Beast Wars. In fact, I know there were. But I don't know. Whatever. The fact is he's not. It's supposed to be not part of the Michael Bay stuff. So we'll see what happens.
But you can't really blame him for it.
A lot of Transformers pretty soon, man.
I'm excited. A lot of stuff coming up, and the best thing is that we're hearing about all this stuff, meaning production is back in full form in Hollywood. They're not holding off. We know the stuff's ending, so we're hearing about a lot more pre-production stuff. We're hearing a lot more pitches that are happening out and all that stuff. So
speaking of Transformers and Adam Wingard, one of the stories that I sent you to do or asked you to do was Adam Wingard talking about his design for Mechagodzilla. Now he didn't want it to look like Michael Bay's Transformers movies because he didn't like it. He thought it looked like crap.
Well, I mean, yeah.
So have fun writing about that.
I absolutely will. And you guys can look for that on punchdrunkcritics.com.
Yeah, and I guess that's about it, really. We're probably about out of time, and I'm hungry, and let's get out of here.
Yeah, we definitely are out of time. So, like I just mentioned, the site is www.punchdrunkcritics.com. Check that out every single day, especially near the end of the week for all your reviews, every single day for the news, trailers, pictures, everything. On Twitter, the site is at PDC Movies. Travis is at Punchy Critic, and I am at PunchDrunkJohn. On Twitch, Travis is at cinematic_enforcer. Good news, we worked out the kinks there, so you should see more Twitch streaming coming soon, and also some new stuff that we're going to try and do with that platform. We are still looking for writers, so if you have any tips, questions, you want to write for us, or just tell us how bad we looked in this week's episode, info@punchdrunkcritics.com is the easiest way to get in touch with us. Until next week, guys, I'm John.
I'm Travis.
And we're out of here.
Thanks for checking out the show. If you like what we're laying down, please subscribe to our channel and click the bell to receive notifications for all of our latest stuff.